Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. The Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Petit Asomo, has condemned some actions undertaken or committed by elements of the National Armed Forces deployed to the northwest and southwest regions of the country to protect the country's territorial integrity and also persons and properties in the region within the context of the deepening Anglophone crisis. The Minister Delegate at the Presidency, Joseph Petit Asomo, speaking during a working visit to the southwest region of the country, decried what he qualified as transforming the mission of the forces of law and the military forces and of course the forces of security in the region to a filming and posting on social media venture, referring to soldiers who have been filming some happenings in the two Anglophone regions of the country and posting on the social media. He reminded them that their duty is nothing else but to protect the people and their properties and of course the territorial integrity of Cameroon. Derek Jato reports.
The Cameroon Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense is visiting the trouble-hit Southwest region at a time that the escalation of the war is showing no sign of ending soon, as attacks and killings are still being recorded.
Please rise and observe a minute of silence in memory of the elements of the defense and security forces who have held in operations since the beginning. The socio-political and security of events in the southwest region and also in memory of our civilian compatriots who lost their lives because of this situation.
Here he is, Minister Petit Asomo Joseph, coming out from the Southwest Governor's office. He is just from an in-camera with his top close security collaborators of the region, and the security around him is exceptional. Even for the press to have pictures of him needed another authorization. Minister Petit Asomo Joseph later, at the 21st Motorized Infantry Battalion, in a meeting with a cross-section of the armed forces, revealed that he came to the region for a working session, and that President Paul Biya, their commander-in-chief, is happy with their professionalism on the field.
Transmit to you his message of congratulations, comfort, and exhortation for an increasing committed work in the discipline and respect.
And for the recalcitrant ones, especially those elements who go to the battlefield to act movie or turn as cameramen to take pictures for social media, must desist from such act. You are here for the population, the defense board stress, and you must protect the population and their properties. This minister's message is coming at a particular period that most people have been accusing the military for burning down their houses, killing their children in the northwest and southwest region.
Before the southwest region, the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Petit Asomo, was equally in the crisis-hit northwest region for the same purpose. In the same light, Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Tanganji Paul, warns non-governmental organizations who are sympathizing with Cameroon because of the Anglophone crisis not to cry more than the bereaved. He was speaking in the southwest region of the country, where he commissioned members of the Center of Coordination of the Humanitarian Aid Plan of Government. Once more, Derek Jato has the details on Boya.
It is no secret that the Anglophone crisis, which started in late 2016 with peace planned, is today a full-scale war. Unlike any other war, the fallout are today being counted even by international bodies. That destruction, displacement, and the refugee crisis part of the Anglophone crisis is seemingly occupying everyone today. and the Cameroon government, while saluting the humanitarian interventions from foreign bodies, also revealed that there have been some irregularities.
Nous avons eu des cas où on a vu des ambulances qui transportaient les malades, mais dans ces ambulances, on a trouvé des armes et des munitions. Vous voyez, à peu près, c'est compliqué.
Minister Paul Atanganji, Cameroon Minister of Territorial Administration, said in a case where a sympathizer is showing so much concern more than the concern, then there is a hidden agenda.
And as I told you that if I'm bereaved, you cannot mourn more than me. It will not be proper. If you start mourning more than the bereaved, then there's something suspicious about the mourning.
The Southwest Governor, Mr. Bernardo Kaliabilai, will repeat the same statement in the same literary form.
All our partners will know what to do to avoid this embarrassment. You said it, Your Excellency, you're coming to condole with me. You cannot be mourning, crying more than me, the bereaved. Those people who are in the bushes who need assistance are first of all Cameroonian. They are our sons and brothers.
The separatist fighters have been giving the Cameroon government sleepless night, and they must not be fed or assisted. The minister warned, for security reasons and for better coordination, Minister Paul Atanganji's mission to Boya was to install members of this coordination center for emergency humanitarian assistance plan created recently following a prime ministerial order.
It was necessary to create this coordination center, and that the members have been commissioned today, meaning that when our partners will come to distribute or to carry out their activities on the field, they will go and talk to the local administrative authorities. The coordination is done at the level of region by the governor.
And henceforth, any activity to be carried out by any non-governmental organization, both local or international, must inform this center with specificities.
And the Imam of the Boya Central Mosque, El Hajj Mohammed Abubakar, has said Cameroon will continue suffering if the population continue enjoying sin. And he said turning away from what is right is embracing what is evil, and he called on all persons to turn away from evil and denounce those who are perpetrating evil publicly. This is the content of his message of the Ramadan feast that was yesterday. We'll be coming back to this report at midday tomorrow. Government is ready and determined to sustain Sonara to ensure that activities continue going on at the National Oil Refinery Sonara after the fire incident that hit that institution in the OPEC city of Limbe. The Minister of Water and Energy Resources, Gaston Elundu Esomba, was in the southwest regional town of Limbe and in the company Sonara for that purpose. Davis Maimo has more.
Je voudrais vous dire toute la détermination du gouvernement à vous apporter.
It is now clear that the Cameroon government will do whatever it takes for Sonora to stay alive.
Afin que ce fleuron national soit réhabilité et qu'il continue à rayonner.
With instruction from the President of the Republic and directives from the Prime Minister, a joint ministerial committee headed by the Minister of Water and Energy, Gaston Elundu Esomba, in a meeting with management staff and workers of the National Oil Refinery Sonora, debunked the rumor and speculation circulating that Sonora might suspend its activities and some workers retrenched or dismissed.
Le personnel Sonora ne sera pas mis en chômage technique.
Responding to this message, the workers, through the staff representative, expressed joy and happiness.
We would like to sincerely thank the state through the Prime Minister for the promise made to preserve Sonara workers' jobs.
Minister Gaston Elundu Esomba spelled it out that the Sonora laboratory will continue operating fully to ensure the quality of petroleum product imported.
Monsieur le Directeur Général, je vous invite donc
The general manager is charged with the duty of reinforcing technical security measures at the National Oil Refinery.
J'insiste sur le plan technique.
To which gratitude I add that of the board chair as well as mine, not only for the measure taken by the head of state to overcome this unfortunate fire incident, but also and especially for his commitment to rebuild Sunara, the jewel of our industry, and the head of state will and desire to maintain all jobs.
We have been blocked from getting inside. The ministers are going to visit the site of the disaster site, and private journalists have been prohibited, except that of the state media as well.
Coming up, Immaculate Fogwe takes a look at problems faced by truck drivers plying the Douala Bangui and Douala N'Djamena highways, and she reports that the drivers are threatening to bring to a halt all activities or their activities if government does not respond favorably to their plight. Her report.
Transporters on the Douala N'Djamena and Douala Bangui corridor are decrying gross exploitation and abuse of drivers by police and gendarme officers and the presence of numerous checkpoints along the corridor. The Douala N'Djamena corridor covers 1,864.8 kilometers and has over 180 checkpoints. How can we be having 5 checkpoints in less than 100 kilometers? Along the Yassa, Dibamba, Edeya, Puman, Bankomo stretch of road, which covers a distance of less than 100 kilometers, we have 4 checkpoints. A person will stand on the highway and blow his whistle on a heavy-duty truck, and the driver gives him money, which ranges from 50,000, 20,000 depending on the agreement. And when the driver has paid, he is the same person who tells the gendarme or police officer that, "Thank you for taking my money." It is only in Cameroon that such a thing can happen. It has to stop. When traveling along the Kribi road, especially from Fifida to the port of Kribi, we come across 13 checkpoints. It is exaggerating. 5 trade unions of drivers plying this corridor say they sent their complaint to the Prime Minister 4 months ago, but he is yet to respond to their plight. We have been going to Yaoundé several times, but we have not received any response. The government has to listen to our plights. The drivers are planning to go on strike on Monday if nothing is done by the government.
And the governor of the Central Region of Cameroon, Nasiri Paul Bear, has presented a balance sheet of the payment of some money to victims of the defunct MIDA institution in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. He was speaking to the press today, and we have details in this report compiled by Innocent Azi.
Launched on the 8th of May 2019, the first phase to refund the MIDA subscribers ended on June the 3rd on a satisfactory note.
As of now, over 8,266 persons and associations were paid for a global sum of about 4.4 billion. The rest of the problem will be solved with the promoters and with the courts.
Over 2,000 complaints were received, and after settling those of the first phase, the sum of about 400 million is left.
And what is left is about 400 million. We received over 2,000 complaints, which are going to be studied.
The Commission is taking a 2-week break to examine all the complaints before proceeding to the second and last payment phase.
We have people who have lost their receipts. We have people who have passed on. We have others who are not around, and so they have given, they don't have the right power of attorney, what we call procuration. And so all these cases will be studied, and we will have to go back into the file. The problem we have now is that most of the documents and even the data bank of this association has been stolen. So we need to take time. So we're given 2 weeks to study all the cases and the complaints which we have received, so that at the end of it, we now tell the persons where to pay, when and how they will be paid for the complaints.
The central governor seizes this opportunity to thank all subscribers for their comportment despite the misery they suffered and endured for a year before receiving their money invested in the coffers of the fake organization.
With the help
out of Cameroon, Sudan has been suspended by the African Union organization over the crisis rocking that country. And in the report coming up next, Hermine Iluga presents the details on that story concerning Sudan and, of course, the latest news from Algeria.
The African Union has suspended Sudan's membership days ahead. The military launched a brutal crackdown on protesters that killed dozens of people. The AU's Peace and Security Department said in a post on Thursday that Sudan's participation in all AU activities would be suspended with immediate effect until the effective establishment of a civilian-led transitional authority, which is described as the only way to exit from the current crisis. The announcement followed an emergency meeting by the AU in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, after the violent dispersal of a protest camp in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. At least 108 people have been killed and more than 500 wounded, according to the Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors. The AU had earlier warned of suspension if Sudan's military did not hand over power, but extended the deadline on Saturday after the previous one was ignored. In Algeria, the country's interim president Abdelkader Ben Salah has called for dialogue after the authorities ruled out holding a planned election on July 4th. Ben Salah urged the political class and civil society in the North African country to hold an inclusive dialogue aimed at fixing a new date for elections as soon as possible. Ben Salah, the former Upper House Speaker, was appointed on April 9th on the constitutional rules which deem a presidential election must be held within 90 days. Meantime, the Constitutional Council has suggested his mandate be extended. The planned vote had drawn widespread protest, with Algerian demonstrators demanding Bouteflika allies step aside to make way for a broader political overhaul before any elections are held.
Up next is a sportsman, Jikan Gabriel, with details or better still updates on the preparation of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, who are camping in Spain ahead of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations built for Egypt.
The general manager of the Spanish La Liga, Fernando Sanz, was the surprise guest at the Lions training camp in Real Madrid, Spain this Friday. Fernando Sanz says his visit to the Lions training session was a way to promote a one-time legend of La Liga, now coach with Cameroon.
I'm here watching the training session of Cameroon. And here because Clarence Seedorf, ex-legend of La Liga, ex-former player of Real Madrid in our league, ex-teammate of myself, are very close to La Liga. It is very important for us, for La Liga, that the image of one of our big legends of La Liga be everything okay. Congratulations to Cameroon to be Clarence as a coach.
The partnership already existing between Cameroon's Professional Football League and La Liga was another point raised by Fernando Sanz for visiting the Lions Den.
Even we provide, the facilities of one of our teams of clubs in La Liga to use Cameroon national, the team of Cameroon, to play the friendly matches because Cameroon, of course, is very important for us. We have an agreement with the professional league in Cameroon, and our relationship with the country of Cameroon is very important.
The Lions had 2 training sessions this Friday at the Ciudad de Real Madrid. Elsewhere, the presentation of the official jersey for football teams in Cameroon took place in Montpellier, France this Friday. On hand to sign the partnership with French firm Coq Sportif was the Cameroon's Football Federation's president Seydou Mbombo Njoya. The female national football team that is currently warming up for the FIFA Women's World Cup in France was the first to put on the new set of jersey produced by Coq Sportif.
Coming up next, Talking Point. Thanks for joining us in Talking Points. We are receiving a society or civil society leader. Léonel KUNGABA is the representative of Africa Rising in Cameroon, the organization that is fighting to promote the justice, peace, and of course dignity of Africans. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan, and good evening to all our viewers. It's a pleasure to us being on Equinox to enlighten our viewers on social issues that we have around us.
All right, before we go continental, we start in Cameroon. What's your take on what has been happening in Cameroon from the northwest to the southwest crisis, and of course to the other political issues with the incarceration of political leaders?
I think it's really a pity situation, a sad situation for our nation, for Cameroon, where it's almost more than 3 years now that our indigenes, our population, our brothers and sisters from the northwest and southwest are suffering from what is going on in the northwest, which has been called, in quotes, the Anglophone crisis, which I think it's not what we have to, it's not the name we have to give to that crisis. What we have to talk, or how we have to call it, is the people of the northwest and the southwest are trying to reivindicate or to ask the government of Cameroon, the government of Mr. Biya, to respect their culture, to respect their rights, and to make sure that they are fully included in the daily management of our nation, which is Cameroon. Concerning the incarceration of some political leaders, I think we are in a nation and we are in a state, and when we say we are in a nation and a state, there are laws and regulations that we have to respect, and respecting the law, these laws have to be from both sides. When I say from both sides, it's from the civil society, the political parties, and the government as well, because if the government can't respect the laws, the people or the civil society or the political parties as well will not do same. And what I have noticed is that because the government of Cameroon have not been respecting laws and have not been trying to make sure to keep the law as the guarantee, the guarantor of our laws and regulations back here, that's why we are seeing all what is going on. And as you know, we have a law that was voted in 1990 for the liberation of association and manifestation, which gives the right to any legalized civil society organization or political party duly registered to manifest or to have the right to manifest publicly without disorder.
But apparently the law is not respected.
That's what we're seeing, and that's why you see some of Cameroonian politicians, especially one of those who just joined the opposition some few years ago, is under bars today.
Professor Maurice Kamto.
Professor Maurice Kamto. And we decry this situation because when we talk of a country, we talk of a state, we first of all talk about the
laws of the land.
The laws of the land, and these laws has to be respected by both parties, the citizens and the government as well. If one party is not respecting the law, it becomes something which is not livable.
All right, your organization, Africa Rising, which you're representing in Cameroon, is fighting to protect, to promote justice, peace and the dignity of Africans. What provoked this initiative?
I think some leaders came together some few years ago. That was 2016, and African leaders, of course, and thought of all the ills and everything that's happening in our nation, and they deemed it or they thought it wise to put in place a Pan-African movement of people and civil society organizations that will be promote or advocate for justice, peace, and the dignity of Africans back here in Africa or in the diaspora.
Are Africans deprived of their justice? Are Africans deprived of peace? Are Africans deprived? Is their dignity being walked upon?
When you look at what is happening in Sudan, you look at what is happening in Algeria, you look at what has been going on the continent as a whole, and you look at the states of migration from Africa to other regions of the world, you ask yourself questions: why are Africans the one facing all these difficulties in the whole world? And I think the coming of African Rising, which is a Pan-African movement and which has been doing a lot, because when you look at the activities of African Rising from 2016 to date, you will realize that they have influenced a lot in all what has been going on the African continent, especially in those countries where you find crisis. And even in Cameroon, we were fortunate to have one of the coordinators that came for a fact mission in Cameroon and that realized what is happening and had to give some suggestion. And I think the pressure that is being done both on social media and on the field by volunteers and members of African Rising is trying to impact the population and educate them and make them understand that we have a right and we also have a duty, and also call on all the governments and especially the dictatorial regimes that we have in Africa to try to see how they can change the situation in their various countries and ameliorate the conditions of their citizens. And if you notice,
and that was the objective of the last meeting that you.
If you notice the theme of the African Liberation celebration, which went on the in Cameroon from the 23rd to the 25th, activities in Douala and Yaoundé and Bamenda, was accordance to the theme that that was given, the global theme, which was to stop modern slavery and human trafficking. And we really emphasized on that during our activities, which we had a sensitization activity in Douala. After the sensitization activity in Douala, we had a coffee evening with some parliamentarians who are in line with the objectives of African Rising in Yaoundé, and in Bamenda we had also another sensitization activity which permitted Cameroonians to know about African Rising and to sign up to the Kilimanjaro Declaration.
All right. Thanks so much, Léonel KUNGABA, representative of African Rising Cameroon. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. news.
I'm the one thanking EQUINOXE and the general team of EQUINOXE for the great job they're doing, and we are always available to be here to talk to our people.
All right, we hope to have you some other time. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us.